Higher Life Sessions. If you've been waiting around, then thank you very much. There's been some technical difficulties on our end, so we properly apologize for that. But welcome back. If you are here again, then welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. We've had so much fun hanging out with you all over the past few weeks. We are on week 6, I think it is. And my name's Jacob. I'm going to go around and introduce, they're going to introduce themselves. So Josh, who are you and where are you from?
Hi, I'm Josh Montero. I'm pastor of Emmanuel Church Northstowe, so a little bit north of Cambridge. And one of the other things I do is I run a training course in Cambridge, a Bible training course in Cambridge.
Amazing. And Jax, who are you and where are you from?
So I'm Jax. I work for Cambs District with Christ. I also work for Church Good Shepherd in Albury, and I'm a youth worker.
Amazing. So, right, here's a question, deep question. If you could live in any city for the rest of your life, right? The rest of your life, where would that be? Let's start. You both look stuck. I'm going to start with me then. I would choose New York. Me and my wife went to New York 3 years ago, and we've all seen movies with New York in. I don't know if you guys have either of you been there, but it literally feels like you're on the set of any New York movie. Like you feel like you're on the set of Home Alone. You feel like you're on the set of Elf. Like literally, as you get off the subway and walk up the stairs, you're just like, I'm in this movie, or I'm in that. Like it's magical. We love it. And I think we even stayed an extra week while we were there because we loved it so much. We just extended it for an extra week. Jax, you next.
If I could live anywhere, I'd live in Brisbane in Australia.
Okay, cool.
Because it's similar in the same way as you feel like you're on a movie. You don't necessarily feel like you're on a movie, but you feel like you're, I don't know, in Neighbours or something.
I love it.
Just because it's so sunny. And yeah, it's gorgeous.
Amazing. Josh?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I love Cambridge actually, so I'm
cool.
tempted by Cambridge, but Cambridge doesn't have mountains. Okay. And if you were to sort of transplant Cambridge from its flat plains place and put it next to some mountains for some good hill walking, I think Cambridge would be a place I want to live.
Oh, hill walking. I was going to say, are you a mountain biker? Are you a snowboarder? Are you a...
Oh, well, I'd love to be a snowboarder, but you need to live close enough to some mountains with snow to make that one work.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. So you are brand new to our channel here. And so I'd love for you to tell us a bit of your story. Josh, why don't you tell us just quick, like less than 2 minutes, why are you Christian? Why do you love Jesus? Today we're talking about relationships, so why do you have a relationship with Jesus?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'd love to tell people that. So I grew up in a Christian family. My parents took me to church. So I learned something about Jesus from a very young age. And I don't think you grow up, you don't really doubt it. You just accept what your parents say, what your Sunday school teachers say. I think I was sincere. But then when I hit my teen years, you have to ask the questions, don't you? You have to ask the big questions about like miracles, really, creation, really. And also the sort of reality, is this a relationship that's real everywhere, or is it just for church? And then when you go to school, you're a different person. So when I was a teenager, I sort of had to wrestle with those things. The intellectual stuff, C.S. Lewis was the person who helped me. I went to the local bookshop, picked up some C.S. Lewis.
I love that. C.S. Lewis is amazing.
He is amazing, and whether he's writing fiction or his more apologetic stuff. So he really helped me to see that Christianity made sense of the world. But then the relationship stuff, it came down to a youth group weekend away. Someone shared something I'd probably heard loads of times before, this idea that Jesus died for me. And it suddenly struck me, if he died for me, I could trust all of my life to him. If someone's willing to die for you, then when they call you to be different in different ways, that's not bad for you. It's going to be good for you. And also had a real sense at that time of just God's presence as I surrender myself to God again. A sense of God being with me and a great deep peace at that moment. So I think that was a key recommitment point for me in my journey.
Amazing. Absolutely love that. Jax, why don't you tell us a bit about your story?
So I too grew up going to church. I went to a tiny Baptist church with a membership of about 20 people. So it was small,
Wow,
but it was
that's crazy.
intense, but really good. And I think I made the commitment when I was about 13, and my aunt and uncle took me to a family thing called it was called Stoneleigh, but it's now become New Day. And I think that moment where you're in a crowd and suddenly you realize that something that your mum has always said is true is true for loads of people. So actually I took it even more seriously. And over time, Jesus hasn't let me down. Life looks very, very different to how it did back then. I now use a wheelchair a lot of the time and all that sort of thing. But Jesus has never let me down. And my relationship with him is the thing that keeps me going every day.
So good.
So it's a choice that you do make every day, but every day it's worth it.
Yeah, amazing. And like you said, it's a relationship that you chose. I think a lot of time people can think about Christianity. I don't know if you guys agree with this. People you meet who aren't Christians think about Christianity and are like, oh, okay, so their thoughts are of a building, of a church building, or their thoughts are a set of rules. Their thoughts are like, oh, you're Christian, so you can't do this. You know what I mean? Oh, you're Christian, so on Sunday mornings you can't watch footy, you can't play footy because you have to go to this. Do you know what I mean? And or you're Christian, or you hate gay people. You know what I mean? Like that's what people's thoughts, come to. But I think such an important thing to remember, like to know is that it is a relationship. So Josh, like, why is this relationship with God? I mean, I've said Josh, but Jax, either of you can answer this, but I'll ask Josh first. Why is your relationship with God so important? And B, just within that, like, how is it different from your relationships with your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad or your boyfriend? Do you know what I mean? Like, how is that? How are they two different relationships, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So I think it's important because we're made by God, and we're actually made to function properly only in relationship with God. God himself is three persons in relationship. So before he creates anything else, he's already a relational God. And when he makes us to work a little bit like him. We're made in his image, and so we're meant to be in relationship. And actually, the only relationship that's going to be big enough to fill us up, to give us joy, to give us security, is that relationship with God. Because only an infinite person can love us enough, and we're just so hungry for love. So that's why the God relationship is just so important. But it's also different because it's invisible. So with my wife and my kids and my friends and people at church, I see them and we do stuff together, and I get to know them slowly that way. With God, he's invisible. He's made himself known in the Bible so that we can hear what he's like. We can see there, as it were, what he's like. And then he comes to us by his Spirit. And that means he's both always with us. He knows everything we're doing. He knows everything that's going on. We're never without a friend.
Yeah.
But it also means it's that sort of, because it's invisible, we sometimes think, is it real? I think that's the tension, isn't it? It's both the most intimate and powerful and important relationship, and then at some moments you just look at life going on around you and think, am I just gone mad? Because I can't see God in the way that I can see my family and friends.
Yeah, that's so good. Jax, is there anything you wanna add to that? Go ahead.
I think the only kind of extra thing that I would say is that there's a level of trust and faith that you have to have and choose to have it even at those times when you can't see it. And I think it's that bit that I've learned to grow in, because I do think that God shows himself to you in different ways, and as you progress and you trust him more and you get into a you begin a stronger relationship, he's going to teach you other things in a different way. So life does feel different. And so it is quite different from a relationship with your mum or dad or brother or sister, where if you wanted to talk to them, you could either call down the hallway or you could like phone them. And it's a much more it's a quicker thing, and like as a society we're becoming more instantaneous, like we want the instant response. And actually I think sometimes our relationship with God is not like that, because he's so much bigger than that. He's working on a landscape or a like on a picture that's so much bigger than what we see. And I think the trust part is the hardest part, but it's also the most powerful part of our relationship with him, because we really are, we get to talk to my closest friend is the person that made the entire world, and he was willing to die for my sins. And that's massive. In moments when I dare to actually believe it and dare to let it sink in, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is mental. But he does have grace for us in those moments when we can't quite accept it.
Yeah,
If I could add something there, I think like one of the other big differences then is that all the other relationships we're in, we're sinners and the other people are sinners. You know, made in the image of God, lots of good in there, but also a lot of mess. And so every other relationship, things we sort of bash into each other in the wrong way, if I can put it that way. God is holy and good. So there's still a problem because we're still sinners, but that's where the cross is just so important. He forgives our sin, and then he says, I'll give you my Holy Spirit to make you more like me. But God himself is totally trustworthy. He's not out to exploit us at all. He's not playing any silly games. He really loves us 100%. And that gives you the ability, that's part of the trust thing. You can trust yourself to him because of that level of love.
It's so good. It's so good. I love that, guys. Absolutely amazing. And you know what, like living alongside other people is I find, you know, one of the best things in life, you know. But like you said, it can also be like we're all it can also be one of the hardest things in life. You know what I mean? I'm the older brother of 5 younger siblings. So I've got 5 younger siblings younger than me. So there was lots of arguments, there was lots of fights, you know. It was amazing, but also, you know, really difficult dealing with all those relationships. You know, the relationships with our friends, they can be difficult. Relationships with our mum and dads, you know, and that's what you guys have been touching on. That's part of the brokenness in the world that Jesus came to fix. You know, he came to fix our broken relationships with one another. And Jesus spent a lot of time teaching about how to relate to other people, you know, relate to one another in like God's way. You know, he talked about the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. He characterized it, you know, set out, you know, some values. And one of the stories he used, you guys will know this story, but for people you're watching, you may have never heard this story. It's called the Good Samaritan. There was a Samaritan man, you know. He was going like a business trip. He was traveling from one place to another. He's walking along. He's having the time of his life. But suddenly, a group of robbers jump out. They beat him up. They take all of his things, and they basically leave him for dead on the side of the road. The first person to pass is you know, like a priest. He comes and he's like, oh, no, and he hurries past because he doesn't want to be attacked, you know. And then there's another really important person who comes past. He's like, no, I don't want to be attacked. But the thing that happened is sorry, the first guy was a Jewish guy. The thing that happened was a Samaritan was walking past. And what you have to understand is that Samaritans and Jews did not get on. They absolutely hated each other, right? How crazy is this? That they hated each other so much that they would walk around where the Samaritans live. It took them 4 extra days, but they chose to walk around it because they hated this other people so much. But as a Samaritan walked past, he saw this guy and he helped him. And you know what's absolutely amazing is that even through all of the boundary, even through that Samaritan who'd been brought up in an atmosphere of just hating, he still decided to do the good thing and help out his fellow, human. He probably didn't even know this person, because I think he understood that the person who had been attacked was valuable and important as anyone else was to God. So he helped him. When our relationships get messy, when we're feeling hurt, when we're feeling let down, when we're feeling angry, it always helps us, to remember that God loves us and he loves the other people around us. And I think an amazing thing is we can ask God how to see people, how he sees them. And we'll touch on that again, in a few minutes. But just to line things up a few minutes. Josh, if I was to ask you, would you choose, if breakfast in the morning, would you choose toast or would you choose cereal?
Cereal.
Cereal. Is there a favorite cereal?
I quite like Shreddies.
Quite like Shreddies. Amazing. Jax, would you choose going on a holiday to a really sunny place by the beach, or would you choose going on a holiday to a cold place?
Warm place.
Warm place. Right answer. Right. I mean, there's no right or wrong answers, but that was the right answer. Josh, would you choose McDonald's or KFC?
McDonald's.
McDonald's. Okay.
Our kids love McDonald's. They think it's like a really special treat. We bribe them with McDonald's as a special treat.
We're live. You're not supposed to say those things up. No. Would you, Jax, would you choose Netflix or reading a book?
Oh. Well, the awkward thing is that I don't have Netflix.
Oh,
so I would go for reading a book. Look at you. Oh, no. The thing is, I have Prime.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. One of those holy people who don't watch TV.
I haven't got that
far. Amazing. So, how guys? How should our relationship with God affect the people around us, and how can we start seeing everybody else around us through the eyes that God sees them? Does that make sense? How can you go about doing that?
As you said, there's lots of different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is that the Holy Spirit does it. So whatever, when you trust in Jesus, God Himself starts work inside you, and that sometimes it's not even conscious stuff, but He does that. So we want to pray for that. But I think one of the others is there's a big emphasis on seeing how God's treated you should change how you treat others. So Jesus tells a story about
that's so good.
Gets forgiven a debt of like 20 billion pounds, and then goes and beats up the person who owes him a tenner, and says like, that's crazy, isn't it? But that's when we really understand how much we've offended God and other people, how bad our sin is, and then God's forgiven us all of it totally. Then when other people do stuff to us that's bad, and when people do stuff that's genuinely wrong, and sometimes they're just annoying, but sometimes they genuinely do wrong stuff. But there's this sort of power to forgive that comes from really understanding how much we've been forgiven, and really thinking about that and rejoicing in that. And so that's one of the things Jesus tells us.
Amazing. Jax, how do you see people around you? How do you do that relationship thing of like somebody annoys you or something, someone really grinds your gears? Like, how do you continue to go, oh, Jesus forgives me, so I choose to forgive you? How do you work that out as a Christian?
I think sometimes it's about intentionally making the choice, even if you don't feel like you forgive them, saying I want to forgive them, and then saying that so much that you get to the point where you get there slowly. So I had a fairly bad experience a number of years ago, and I really struggled to forgive the person, and even now I really struggle. So I intentionally follow them on Instagram so that I have to see their face like from time to time, and then I have to make the choice to look at them and be like, you know what, I forgive you, like, and the more I say it, the more I believe that it's true, because actually I think and also praying for them, Jesus
Yeah.
says, pray for those who persecute
Mhm.
you. So you can't pray good things for someone too
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
and before you have to have like
Mhm.
a positive opinion of them,
Yeah.
because when we're praying to we're praying to God, we're praying to someone who's holy and perfect. And I think over time, I think a lot of it is bringing it to Jesus and being like,
Mm.
this really, like being honest about it and not being like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it doesn't bother me, because you know what, if it does bother you, it's not going to work
Yeah.
in the long run. So
Mhm.
there's an element about being honest
Yeah.
with God about how that person has made you feel, but
Mhm.
also being honest with God about how you've made God feel.
Yeah.
And when you realize what God's done for you,
Mhm.
I think that we coincidentally will recognize the reality of what we need to do for whoever it is.
That's so good.
That
I love that. I love that because nobody made you follow that person on Instagram. You've chosen to do that yourself because you
yeah,
understand that you need to, whether it's work through something or it's even just that I want to be the most Jesus-like person I can be. So that person needs to forgive everybody, no matter what they've done, no matter what they've said to me. I think I'll go ahead.
well, I don't. My other point is, I don't even know if that person knows that I follow them. Like
Yeah, of course.
it's not. I think it's important that you do it for you. You don't do it
Yeah. Yeah.
because that would be slightly pointless.
Yeah, exactly. I think as well, like we as Jesus followers, if you're watching High Lives today, it's maybe you've become a Christian over the past few weeks, maybe you've been a Christian for a long time. And another thing, we're talking about relationships today. Like we found the greatest relationship ever, and that's a relationship with God. And how if we love the people around us, surely we found the meaning to life. What I'm trying to say is surely we should be sharing that with the people that we love, the people around us. Maybe you're a Christian and your brother or your sister doesn't know, your mom or your dad, your best friend. You know what, and it's on us. It's not as a burden, but we get the privilege and the opportunity to be able to share that with the people around us. How can you, maybe just a challenge to whoever's watching today, who can you share Jesus with this week? You know what, who can you change someone's entire life, not just their life but their eternity? It's absolutely changed when you meet Jesus. Josh, Jax, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people who are watching today?
I think, like, just as you were talking there, it struck me that one of the
Yeah.
challenges with this love thing is also speaking the truth in love.
Yeah.
And so we often veer from, I'm a very selfish person who just says what I think, even if it hurts you,
Yeah.
to I'm very kind and loving, but I don't dare speak truth because I'd offend you. I don't want to lose you. And that what Jesus shows us so perfectly is somebody who really loves people, but can
Mm-hmm.
point out, actually, that's not good for you.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not good for other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that I think the book of Proverbs is really big on this. It's a whole book of wisdom in the Bible, saying
Mm-hmm.
we need to learn how to speak the truth in love. We need to learn how to have a heart that wants the best for people, and wisdom to know how to help
Yeah.
them, and then have them help us, because they're also going to point out ways that we're not being helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sort of community of speaking the truth in love is what the gospel sets us free for.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, Josh. I really appreciate it, Jax. You guys have been amazing. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. Please come back next week. We're going to be meeting again to continue learning about what it means to follow Jesus wholeheartedly. You're amazing. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.